You've heard tonight from our panel and community members at what's at risk, our national reputation. Business is certainly feeling a threat.
But if religion is truly a moral issue, should we even be swayed by any of those arguments? That's the next topic for our debate. History has shown Arizona is a maverick state, losing out on the Super Bowl over not recognizing MLK Day back in 1990.
So should potential consequences matter if it's about defending a moral stance? And I'm going to run like Phil Donahue over here to talk to a gentleman that we've been wanting to get to for quite some time, Luther Holland, Reverend Luther Holland, I should say, with the First Institutional Baptist Church as well. You're the chairman of the board of directors there. You've also been involved a long time in the civil rights movement. What do you make of this? It's a moral stance for some people. It's a moral stance on different grounds for others.
The religious leaders of Phoenix today and Arizona came out against 1062. That ought to tell our friends who are pushing to protect religion that we don't need political protection. We have the greatest protection in the world. Our belief as a Protestant pastor for 44 years is that I love my neighbor. That's what I was commanded to do. Not love my neighbor because of their gender, not love my neighbor because of their LGBT status, not love my neighbor because they are Caucasian or black or Hispanic, but to love my neighbor because they are a child of God. We are all created in that image. And until Arizona gets to the point of learning to respect each other, some people have a problem. They have a solution, but they haven't found the problem yet. They're looking for a problem. And they think 1062 is going to... What 1062 does is it puts Arizona in the spotlight of being a state that does not respect its inhabitants. I don't want to be tolerated. Tolerance is nothing for me. I want to be equal. Right. And so the black community is not supporting 1062. We are opposed to it. Why? Because it is legalized discrimination one more time. We're about to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Civil Rights Act in America, and somebody now wants to say that religion is saying that the Civil Rights Act was inappropriate and that the First Amendment and the 14th Amendment aren't strong enough to support religion. We were founded on the separation of church and state. When will our politicians learn, let the church be the church, and when the church learns to let politicians be politicians?
I want to bring in Danny Ortega on this, and I'm just going to hand you the mic right here. You have such a unique perspective, being both an attorney in this case and, you know, also a civil rights leader. So what were your thoughts when you heard this?
Well, clearly I was disappointed, like many people. I mean, for decades, our community, the Latino community, has been the subject of discrimination, like other groups. And then we just find another group to be intolerant
You feel
against.
beat up.
And let me tell you, when SB 1070 happened, we made the argument that it was going to have a profound effect on the Latino community, irrespective of their legal status, that it was going to affect U.S. citizens, legal residents, and everybody down the road. And everybody who supported SB 1070 says, no, 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 this is not intended to discriminate. I turn around on Friday and hear about 1062, and it is clearly intended to discriminate against a group.
What did you say? Oh no, here we go again?
Here we go again. I want to live in an era when groups aren't finding to victimize other groups. I want to live in a state that values differences and celebrates differences.
What are you hearing from people in other states?
Well, here we go again.
Yeah,
SB 1070 to a different group. And I believe that 1062 is even worse than SB 1070 because it targets a community specifically under the guise of religious freedoms. And the bottom line here, 1070 was under the guise of, of standing up to the rule of law or border security. Here it is, to protect religious freedoms. The bottom line, that both of them have one thing in common. They discriminate, and they discriminate against a particular group. I think that what you're also finding here is that when you allow, particularly the conservative element of this community, to control the state legislature, to control the governor's office, to control just about every aspect of politics. And you ask, why do they do this? You know why? Because they can.
Danny,
the bottom line here is that this state has got to take the intolerance of the people who are passing these laws and say enough is enough.
Thank you so much for weighing in. I know you're very passionate on this, and I appreciate you.
I want to bring in State Representative Justin Olson now. You've supported this bill, obviously, and it seems like this is an argument, civil rights versus religious rights, and trying to strike a balance between them. Certainly, there is a segment of the pastoral community that says you should love thy neighbor. There are others who believe that homosexuality, as portrayed in the Bible, is a sin. How do you balance the rights?
You know, I'm so glad that you asked that question, because that's something that I feel as well, that we should love our neighbor, and that's a religious principle that I prescribe to. And that's why, you know, if this bill did what the opponents of this bill say it does, I would not have supported this bill. But I like Kathy, encourage all of your viewers to read this bill. It's 2 pages. It does not do what the opponents of this bill say that it does. What it does is it says there are going to be conflicts between religious views and state laws. And how are those conflicts going to be resolved? They're going to be resolved with this process. If there's a compelling governmental reason for requiring someone to violate their sincerely held religious belief, then the state can do that under this bill. And that's been the law since 1999. That does not change. You have that clear exception. If there's a compelling governmental interest to avoid all of these hypothetical situations, which there is, then those compelling governmental interests will be supported.
But nonetheless, you have people that say, you know, religious freedom is wonderful, but it is a license necessarily to discriminate against a certain group.
And it absolutely is not. There is a compelling governmental interest to make sure that we have equal treatment of the laws that is required under the Constitution. And that compelling governmental interest will be what rules under this law, just as it has since 1999. The only thing that changes in this law is it addresses, does the government have to be a party of the lawsuit? It has never been interpreted that way under the several years since this law has been in place. There was a recent court ruling that said the government has to be a party to the lawsuit in order to follow this process. We're just clarifying the intent that was the legislation that passed several years ago and the application of that law since that time. And none of these hypothetical situations that have been described have occurred under those 10 years of that bill.
All right, State Representative, thanks so much.
A passionate conversation going on here and a passionate rally going on downtown. We're going to check in again live in just a moment.